Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to be back here again with a new episode. And if it's your first time watching, please be part of the family and subscribe to the channel for more true crime content because your support would mean the absolute world to me. Alright guys, I hope everything is good on your side and that you are ready for this week's episode because this week we're going to be talking about the disappearance of Madison Scott. So let's get right into it. Madison Scott, also known as Maddie, was born on April 29th in 1991, and she was the middle child of a family of 5. Her parents are Eldon and Dawn Scott, and she has an older brother by the name of Ben and a younger sister by the name of Georgia. Madison was described as the kind of person who had a vivacious personality. She was loving, caring, she was playful, funny, and she was also very social. She was also the kind of person who would do things in the spur of the moment. For example, if she makes a plan to go do something, if something else that is way more fun comes up, she would cancel her first plan to go do whatever it is that seems a lot more fun than what she initially wanted to do. So she always made spur of the moment decisions. So that's just the kind of person she was, and everyone who knew her eventually got used to how she would normally do things. She enjoyed skating, horseback riding, hanging out with her friends, and also she enjoyed dirt biking as well. So she was a very active person, and from the looks of things, she had quite a good social life. Madison worked as a heavy mechanic apprentice with her dad at the MPG logging, and according to her family, even though she was this social person who always enjoyed being outside and doing something, she would always be in contact with her family. She wouldn't go too long. It was very much unlike her to go too long without contacting her family. So we could say that they were very close with each other. Madison also loved spending nicely on herself. She loved treating herself even to expensive things, especially for things like her biking gear. She never was shy of treating herself nicely for her interests. And also, according to a friend of hers by the name of Chelsea, Madison was a very caring person, the kind of person who would take off the shirt from her back to give it to someone else who would need it more than she did. And something else that Madison loved doing was performing in amateur production videos with her friends, and sometimes she would even perform for her friends. And whenever they do these things, they would always see her as someone who puts it all together. Whenever she was there, the entire plan, the entire activity they would be doing would just seem to come together. And even though she did well for herself in school, even though she got decent grades, she wasn't really the academic type. She wasn't really interested in academics that much. She was more interested in social activities. And I think, judging by her personality and what we've learned about her so far, I don't think that should really surprise us that she would enjoy being out there in the social world more than she would enjoy staring down at a book. At the time of her disappearance, Madison wasn't seeing anyone. She was actually single, and as a matter of fact, she was on a couple of dating sites, so we could say that she was single, but she was also looking to get into relationships. There was a guy though, and this guy went to the same party that Madison went to on the night of her disappearance, and Madison was quite interested in this guy for quite some time. But according to her dad, this guy didn't feel the same way about Madison, and he told Madison that he only wanted to be friends with her. And according to Dawn, Madison's mom, Madison got a call at around 12:30 a.m. on May 28th in 2011, and this was during the time of this party. And apparently this call came from a guy that they knew, but I'm not sure if he was ever identified. So this party that Madison went to on the night of her disappearance was at the Hogsback Lake. So she went to this party on May 27th in 2011, and she drove to the party in her white 1990 Ford F-150 pickup truck, and she was traveling with a friend of hers by the name of Jody Boldock. And Jody was actually someone she knew. She met back in school in Vanderhoof, where she spent most of her life, and they both attended Nechaco Valley Secondary School. But after graduating, apparently they lost contact for a couple of years, so this was them reuniting after graduating high school. And on that day, she took a couple of items with her. And even when she disappeared, those items were found in and around her truck. And many of these items seemed to be of value. They included a 2-person dual-toned blue tent, sleeping bags, toiletries, and costume jewelry. These were the items that were found around her truck. Now, when it comes to the items that were found in the bed of her truck when she disappeared, they included a hatchet, some biking boots, a cooler box with some beer and wine in it, and a gas can with some gasoline inside of it. And then on the inside of her truck, they found her clothes, her purse, and also quite an expensive camera. And the truck was actually locked when it was found. Now, even though there were items that were found in and around her truck, there were also missing items that she had with her that were never found. And these items included an iPhone 4 with a robin's egg blue case and a cluster of keys that included her car keys with a Gothic style lanyard. At the time of this party that was happening on May 27th in 2011, Madison was hanging out with her other friends as well. They were all at this party. And the party they went to was hosted by this guy who hosted his birthday party every year, and he would advertise it on Facebook. And this time the party was at Hogsback Lake. And about 50 people attended this birthday party. Now, Hogsback Lake is about 128 acres in size. It's about 28 kilometers southeast of Vanderhoof, and it's about 22 feet deep at its deepest. The area is a patchwork of lakes, creeks, swamps, and forests, and even rolling hills. And within a kilometer of Hogsback, there are a few privately owned ranches. But within an eye shot of Hogsback, you wouldn't really see these ranches. And some of the ranches within that kilometer range have houses and other structures on them. And some of these ranches are cattle ranches, but it's also common to see horses, cows, sheep, and other livestock in the nearby area or around the lake. So like I said, Madison attended this lake birthday party at Hogsback with her friend Jody on the evening of May 27th in 2011. But just before midnight, Madison decided to go into her tent and get in her sleeping bag so she can just go to sleep. And Jody said she tried to plead with her to just go home instead. But Madison just didn't want to leave, and she just wanted to sleep in her tent. So Jody then left her in the tent, and she left with her new boyfriend named Tyler that she met at the party. And when she came back at around 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. in the morning, still with her new boyfriend, apparently she was worried about Madison and she wanted to come back and check in on her. But for some reason, Madison's mom disagrees with that statement that Jody was worried about Madison. And I don't know about you, but to me, that actually says a lot. So she went to the campsite before she went to work in the morning, and she said that she found Madison's tent unzipped with everything she had inside now on the outside. And Jody said she didn't see Madison anywhere, but she still didn't report this to anyone. She just came in, took her sleeping bag and her pillow, and she left. And honestly, I find that very strange that she wasn't concerned enough to try to find out where she was. I mean, if she really was that worried about her, maybe try to find out if she's anywhere nearby, or if she maybe wandered off nearby in another part of the lake. It didn't even sound like she even tried to call her to find out if she was okay, because remember, her cell phone was not on her campsite even after she disappeared. So you'd think that she would try to call her and think maybe she has her phone with her to try to find out if she was okay, but none of that happened. She didn't do that at all. So it's kind of strange that she was just worried about her, but then she didn't try to do anything about it. According to cell phone records, Madison and her dad Eldon were texting at around 11:30 p.m. on that Friday of May 27th in 2011. And the last activity on her phone was when she had that incoming call on May 28th in 2011 at around 12:30 a.m. And according to her mom, this incoming call came from a guy that they knew. And also, according to cell phone records, again, this was the last activity on her phone. Nothing else ever happened after this. And there is quite a detailed timeline of Madison's movement from the very first moment she arrived at the party with her friend Jordy to the moment of her disappearance. And I want to talk about it so we can have a better idea of what happened all the way till she disappeared. So it goes like this. On May 27th in the evening between 8 and 8:30 p.m., Madison and her friend Jordy went to the party at Hogsback Lake, and it started at around this time. And Madison realized that she actually took the wrong sized tent, and she also forgot to bring the tent poles with her. So between 8:30 p.m. and 9:30 p.m., she went back home to get a bigger tent and the tent poles that she forgot to bring. And when she was home, she even had a bit of a chat with her mom before she went back to Hogsback Lake. Then between 9:30 p.m. and 10 p.m., she arrived at the lake and she set up her campsite and settled in for the night. Then for the next hour and a half, between 10 p.m. and 11:30 p.m., Madison spent a lot of time in her tent while more people were arriving at the party, and the party was still going on. Then between 11:30 p.m. on May 27th and 12:30 a.m. on May 28th, she was texting with her parents, and witnesses claim that she was still in her tent the entire time. Then at around 12:30 a.m. on May 28th, she got that call that came from that guy that Madison's mom said they knew. But again, this guy was never identified, so we don't really know for sure who he was. Then between 12:30 a.m. and 1:40 a.m. on May 28th, Jordy and her boyfriend Tyler came by to Madison's tent to try to get her to leave with them, but for some reason, again, she didn't want to leave with them, so Jordy and her boyfriend decided to leave her by herself. It is believed that Madison went missing sometime between 3 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. on May 28th, because like I mentioned, at around that time in the morning, between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., Jordy went back to the campsite to go check in on Madison and also get a couple of things of her own, when she noticed that Madison's tent was unzipped, but Madison was nowhere to be found. She was not in her tent. Then at 10:30 a.m., the person who hosted the party on the previous night came back to clean up after the party on that morning. And he said when he got there, he noticed Madison's tent, but this time it seemed like it was zipped up. So he didn't go any closer to try to see if she was in there because he thought that she could still be sleeping. And on that very same day, on May 28th, so the next day after the party of May 27th, there was actually a second party that was hosted at Hogsback Lake. And it was said that this party was even bigger than the previous party. But I'll talk about that in a bit. Madison's parents reported her missing at around 12:30 p.m. 2 days later on May 29th in 2011. And they said that even though they knew that she was an independent young woman who had her own life, it still was concerning for her to not say any word to them for over 2 days. They were not accustomed to her going that long without talking to them. And if you remember correctly from the beginning of the video, I did mention that she wasn't the kind of person who would go long without talking to her family or her friends. So it really did seem like they had a good communication relationship with her. So obviously they would be worried if they hadn't heard from her in 2 days. When they went over to where the party was at Hogsback Lake, when they got to her campsite, they found her tent all bent up and it was obviously damaged. It looked like it was flattened and it was also abandoned. And they also found her abandoned truck, and this raised some red flags. So they talked to another friend of Madison's and wanted to know if they had seen her, but they had not seen any sign of Madison. And as soon as they got back home, Madison's mom, Dawn, called the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to report Madison as a missing person. Now, about that party that I mentioned earlier, like I said, it was said to be even bigger than the party that they had on May 27th, and about 150 people actually attended this party, and Madison's younger sister Georgia was one of them. Now, even though she wasn't supposed to be there because she was underage, she went there because she wanted to see if there could be any sign of her big sister anywhere, but she still couldn't see Madison. At this time around, Madison's tent was actually in worse conditions. It had been flattened, and the person who flattened it apparently was a 17-year-old teenager. And this guy was also questioned by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and they found out that he knew nothing about Madison's disappearance, and they didn't report any suspicious motive regarding that part of the investigation. So really, there still weren't any answers as to what happened to Madison Scott when she disappeared. During the investigation, the police said they interviewed every person who went to that party on May 27th in 2011. And during these interviews, they didn't catch any suspicious behavior from any of the party goers. So they don't have any reason to believe that anyone from that party could have had something to do with Madison's disappearance. They also even mentioned that these people also volunteered to, or they agreed to do polygraph tests as part of the investigation, and even the ones who went to the party of May 28th, also most of them did the polygraph tests. But I also found out that polygraph tests are not really admissible as evidence in criminal court in Canada, so it's not really known for sure why the police decided to do these tests to begin with. My guess is they just wanted to test out people's statements, the truth behind their statements, and to try to see if anyone could try to lie their way out of something, or to try to, hide some kind of information from them. So it's not really known why they did the tests, but they did them anyway. The investigators also decided to take every single one of Madison's possessions that she had with her at that campsite. They took her tent, her sleeping bag, her pillow. They even took her truck so they could analyze all of them to try to see if some answers could come out of this. And even though Jody also came back to the campsite in the morning to take some of her stuff back, the police still took her stuff as well to try to analyze them. But as soon as they took them, she told them that she had already washed her pillow and her pillowcases, but she hadn't washed her sleeping bag yet. And when the police analyzed the sleeping bag, they found some blood on it, but they managed to find out that this was Jody's blood, and she explained it by saying that she got the blood on the tent from an accident that happened during a school trip. Madison's family also took it upon themselves to hire a private investigator, and the PI ended up interviewing Jody regarding Madison's disappearance. And when they came back to report to the family, they said that it seemed like the only thing that Jody was concerned about was her favorite pillow, because she kept on asking if she could have her favorite pillow back. I don't know, it seems kind of weird that your friend had just disappeared and the only thing you seem to show concern for was having your favorite pillow back. I mean, that part, it doesn't really sit well with me. I get that they had just reunited after years of no communication, but still, you were the person who was with her at that party, so to show concern for a pillow and not really concern for the person who went missing is a bit off to me. And at this point of the investigation, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police reported that they hadn't found anyone who could have had some kind of grudge against Madison, or someone who could have had a reason to cause her disappearance. But there also wasn't any sign of any struggle at around her campsite, and for that reason, there's not really a lot to go on, but they do believe that there was foul play involved in her disappearance. The area around Hogsback Lake was searched very thoroughly. They searched the lake, the creeks, the swamps, the forests, and the fields that are surrounding the area. And the people who were searching for Madison, they did so on foot, they were on horseback, they were on quad bikes, helicopter. There were also divers in the area. They also had boats, cars, and trucks. So this case was taken very seriously, especially in the first few days of her disappearance. Search crews were walking in lines, hand in hand in the fields to try to see if they can find her. They were also doing check-ins at around 10 p.m. at night. They were still trying to find Madison. It's really amazing how the community came together to try to find Madison and try to see if they can not bring her home. The cadaver dogs and divers were also scouring the lake and the area around the lake for any sign of Madison or any clue that could tell them where she could be. So again, people were seriously involved in trying to find Madison Scott. The helicopter that was used to search for Madison had infrared camera, and they used this camera during the morning hours when the temperature of the area was so low that Madison's body heat would have stood out, and they would have found her immediately if she was anywhere in that area. The helicopter search went over the area that is east to west between the Isle Paris and Fraser Lake, and it also went north to south in the area between Fort St. James and south of Sincut Mountain. The boat search included the use of a side-scanning sonar to make sure that they don't miss anything in and around the waters. So again, people wanted to be very thorough when it came to searching for Madison. Madison's family also created an awareness campaign called Find Maddie, and the people involved in helping out with this campaign try to pass out as much posters, bumper stickers, pens, and information about Madison, and also who to contact for any information that could lead to her discovery as much as they possibly can. They also host an annual poker ride where people could just come and either walk or ride quad bikes or ride their horses in and around the area of Hogsback Lake and in the community, so they could keep the memory of Madison's disappearance fresh in people's minds. And they've been doing this every year since she went missing. But I'm willing to bet that the only exception of this was in 2020 when the world had to face the coronavirus pandemic. But ever since Madison went missing in 2011, they've had this annual poker ride. And as far as this information that I'm sharing with you is concerned, they also put out a reward of $100,000 for anyone who could come with information that could lead to Madison's discovery or that could lead to the arrest of whoever could have taken her. There is even an episode on the very much popular show known as 48 Hours, and it was entirely dedicated to Madison, and there was also a documentary dedicated to Madison. So again, a lot of effort went into trying to find her and also trying to spread as much information about her disappearance as possible. Now, I think by now we know that with all big missing person cases, there are a lot of theories as to what could have happened to the people that went missing, and this case is no different. There are a lot of interesting theories out there about what could have happened to Madison or where she could be, and I thought I should mention just a couple of them. But before I start with the theories, I think I should mention that her family also stated that they do not believe that Madison could have run away, that she could have just decided to run away from her family, from her entire life, because she was just happy with everything that was going on for her and she had no reason to run away. And remember, I did mention that she had quite a good relationship with her parents, with her family, and with her friends as well. So they do not believe that she had any reason to want to run away from her entire life. Alright, the first theory is a large animal attack, and a lot of people considered that maybe she was attacked by a large animal. And this was backed up by the fact that people said they've been seeing a large cougar in the area, but this theory didn't make enough sense because of the lack of remains in the area or any sign of a struggle to show that an animal had been in the area and Madison was attacked around her campsite. And then another theory is that people believed that maybe Madison was at the bottom of Hogsback Lake, but this was also very unlikely because again, an underwater search unit searched the entirety of that lake, and remember, it's only 128 acres in size, and also it is about 22 feet deep at its deepest. So they searched every nook and cranny of that lake and nothing was ever found. And it was also said that the water of the Hogsback Lake was reasonably clear, so it would not have been that difficult to see Madison. And also remember, when they used a boat to search for Madison in the lake, they also used a sonar scanner, and that would have helped them be able to see her in that river. Another theory is about foul play, and I did mention earlier in the video that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police did say that they have reason to believe that foul play was involved in Madison's disappearance. And even though it's not exactly known how Madison left the campsite, a member of the Vanderhoof Search and Rescue as well as the RCMP police believe that when she left, she must have left in some kind of vehicle, because there were no signs of any footprints to indicate she could have walked on her own 2 feet. And since Madison also managed to take her keys and her iPhone with her when she left, it is theorized that when she did leave, she must have left at her own will. Because if there was any struggle or if she was forced to leave, then she wouldn't have had the time to grab her phone and her keys with her. This also suggests that she must have known the person who took her, which brings me to the next theory of friends and associates. If you remember from earlier on in the episode, I did mention that one of Madison's parents did say that there was a guy that Madison was interested in who also was at the party on May 27th in 2011. But even though this guy was at the party, it's not really known if the police ever put a lot of effort into investigating him. Another person that seemed to be of interest was the guy who had an interest in Madison. But again, remember, Madison didn't feel the same way about him. It was reported that this guy was actually secretly annoyed and irritated by Madison, maybe because of the fact that he found it very difficult to win her over and the fact that she wasn't feeling the same way about him. But if we really think about the information that we have now, being that there wasn't any sign of any struggle at around Madison's campsite, it seems a little bit unlikely that this guy could have been the one who took Madison. It would make sense that she would put up more of a fight and not want to go anywhere with him, but when it comes to the guy that she was interested in, it would make a lot more sense that she would decide to leave with him willingly if he ever approached her. A lot of people also suggested that Madison's friend, Jordy, the one that she went to the party with, could have had some involvement in Madison's disappearance. And since she was the last person to spend time with her before she went missing, it would be likely that people would have some sort of suspicion towards her. And if you take into account the time she was also interviewed by the private investigator that was hired by the family, remember, she was only asking about when she would have her favorite pillow back. It didn't really seem like she had any interest in the disappearance of Madison to begin with. So you could say I do understand where people's suspicions of her may come from. But also it was mentioned that Jordy also took a number of polygraph tests, and she kept on telling people that, in her own words, she aced it. And I know that polygraph tests are not really that accurate, but they do help shed some kind of light when it comes to the direction of the investigation. So even the police didn't believe that she could have had something to do with this. But again, you cannot take away how strange everything just feels about her. There was also a possibility that a complete stranger could have taken Madison and convinced her to go somewhere with them, knowing that they had bad intentions for her, and she could have agreed to go somewhere with this stranger without even knowing that they wouldn't let her come back. So there was also that possibility. People also tried to suggest that Madison could have been one of the victims of the Highway of Tears cases, because there had been 2 cases of similar circumstances that took place on the corridor of the Highway of Tears. This is a 450-mile highway between Prince George and Prince Rupert in British Columbia and Canada. One case was of a woman by the name of Bonnie Marie Joseph, and another case was of a woman named Anita Florence Thorne. In both cases, items of value were just left behind and both women just disappeared. So these cases had some similar characteristics to Madison's case, but her family did not support this theory. And it's not really known why they didn't support the theory, but they don't believe that Madison could have been a part of the Highway of Tears cases, even though they had some similar traits to the case of Madison's. For example, in the case of Bonnie Joseph, she was last seen hitchhiking outside of Vanderhoof, and her wallet was found with an uncashed check near a lake that's near Lake Fraser. And in the case of Anita Thorne, for example, she went missing in Prince George. Her car was found near the Shelley turnoff outside of Prince George. Her purse was left in her unlocked car, but her keys and her phone were missing along with her. But again, despite these similarities, Scott family does not believe that Madison's case could have also been a part of the Highway of Tears cases. At the time of her disappearance, Madison was just 20 years old, and she was between 160 and 180 pounds. She was about 5 feet and 4 inches tall. She had green eyes and natural ginger-colored hair. She had a number of piercings on her ear and a nose ring as well, and she had recently done a tattoo of a bird representing a falcon on the inside of her left wrist. The Scott family went to extra measures to find their daughter and bring her back home. They have the Madison Scott Facebook page, which tries to put out as much information about Madison as possible. And they also have a website dedicated to Madison called madisonscott.ca. And on this website, you could find news information, updates, reports, anything that you could find related to Madison's disappearance. They also have a donations option on the website in case anyone wants to contribute anything they can to the search for Madison. I will link everything in the description box below, and if you could just take a moment of your time to just go to the website, check it out, read the news updates, read anything you can about Madison, and also go to the Facebook page and leave a kind message for the Scott family. I know they would definitely appreciate that. But yeah, guys, that was the case of Madison Maddie Scott. I hope that someday there will be answers as to where she is or what could have happened on that day when she went missing in 2011. And I hope the family will one day get closure regarding where she is or what could have happened to her. And Madison, wherever you are loved and you are missed. But that is all that I have for you guys on this episode. Please do let me know what you think about it in the comments. And if you enjoyed watching, please do me a big favor and leave the video a thumbs up by pressing the like button. And also thank you guys for hanging out with me today. As always, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to support my channel. And again, if it's your first time watching, please be part of the family and subscribe to the channel for more true crime content. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next episode. So until then, take care of yourselves, enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.